neutralize conversation with perspective.
CBS News Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley on CBS.
Tonight, more than 100 million Americans under heat warnings. Where will it feel the worst? Then, how will Donald Trump's absence affect tonight's first GOP presidential debate? And why severe drought at the Panama Canal could impact prices here on the CBS Evening.
This is my chance to introduce myself to the country.
We're going to talk about our vision for America.
We'll focus on our message and worry about the other candidates another time.
We're going to paint that picture of how we can improve the economy, energy, and national security.
I'm going to focus my attention just as much on the future.
Everybody has a responsibility to earn people's votes.
I have no concerns. Whether he's there or not, I'll be just fine.
You're going to have a serious policy discussion between the other candidates, and there's a lot of differences there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to America Decides. It is debate night in Milwaukee. 8 Republican presidential candidates are set to take the stage for the first time tonight. Now, this event could, and we emphasize could, provide a breakout moment for at least one of these hopefuls as they all try to attempt to wrestle the nomination away from the frontrunner, who will not be on stage. We all know who that is, former President Trump. For more on this, CBS News Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa joins us now from outside the debate side in Milwaukee. Robert, I know it's hot and humid there. I wish I could do more to help you with that, but I can't. Keeping with the weather theme, do we expect an elevated heat index on stage tonight?
Major, you teed me up. I'll have to say, high heat, high expectations for all of these Republicans who are here, because Trump's not here. Without the former president's presence, it gives them an opening. I've been talking to candidates and campaigns all day, privately behind the scenes, and they say tonight could be a more limited audience because Trump is not on stage, but they believe it could be an opportunity for them in this sleepy summer where Trump's indictments dominate the news to get some traction, some interest, some momentum among their donors, among their supporters, to keep them in this race and get out of the single digits.
And in those conversations, Robert, does it feel to you as if tonight looms largest for Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, who is still in a reset phase of his campaign?
I wouldn't put DeSantis above or behind any in terms of expectations. If you're former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, known for being a maven on the debate stage, this is a moment for you to potentially shine, to show your prowess, to begin the comeback as he wants to in his political career. For Trump's former Vice President Mike Pence, it's an opportunity to maybe look Trump square in the face, at least through the camera, and talk about his conduct on January 6th, talk about his own conservatism. So, yes, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is someone who has been struggling for weeks to really establish himself as the Trump alternative in this race, and he has a target on his back tonight, politically speaking, because a lot of his rival campaigns, they see real vulnerability with DeSantis, and they're going to take him on.
You know, I was just in Iowa last week, as you well know, Robert, and I saw some Iowa voters, Republicans, who were intrigued by Tim Scott. Do you think for those on the debate stage tonight who are investing heavily, as the Scott campaign is in Iowa, tonight also provides a unique opportunity to speak to those voters?
Especially with Trump not here, it could be an opportunity for someone like Senator Scott or North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to introduce themselves to the Republican electorate nationwide, to underscore biographical details that they find important. Political reporters like you and me, we know a lot of the details of their biography, their rise through politics, their different points in life where they may have had adversity or dealt with certain issues, but the rest of the Republican Party might not be paying as close of attention, at least until now. So if they're tuning in tonight, we'll likely hear a refrain on some of the biography, some of the background from Senator Scott and others to really understand who they are, so the voters can understand who they are through this prism of the debate.
Key phrase uttered by Robert Costa, if they are tuning in. Robert Costa, good luck tonight. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Republican presidential candidates have been fanning out across the country for months, making their pitch to voters.
We always put America first. In response, our enemies unleashed an army of rabid left-wing lawyers, corrupt Marxist prosecutors. These are dishonest people, bad people, deranged government agents and rogue intelligence officers to try and stop our movement.
It is not going to be enough as Republicans to simply manage this decline a little bit better than the Democrats. And I'm running for president because we must reverse this nation's decline.
We're skating on thin ice as a country. No doubt about it. We have to admit that. So I'm not going to show up and tell you it's morning in America, because it's not. I don't think the American dream is alive and well, but it is alive and on life support.
With Donald Trump opting not to participate in the first 2024 Republican presidential primary debate, 8 others will take the stage, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's polling a distant second behind the former president ahead of this debate. The Florida governor's allies released a debate memo outlining recommended strategies. Jeff Rowe joins us from Milwaukee. He is an advisor to Never Back Down. That is the super PAC supporting DeSantis' bid for president. Jeff, good to see you. Always a pleasure. It has been described that this evening for the governor is make or break. Is it?
No, not at all. We're excited about tonight. We're excited for the governor to share his vision for America with the voters for the first time. You know, we've been in the preseason for a long time, and this is the kickoff. The Iowa State Fair's over, and here we go. So we're excited for the kickoff and to see the governor tonight on the stage.
Do you expect that he will take most of the incoming, and then if he does, will you turn that around to say, see, he is the #1 rival to Trump?
Well, he is. He's center stage for a reason. And, I think the other candidates have a tough choice to make. I mean, they're going to get, maybe 9-10 minutes. And are they really going to take that time to invite the governor to speak more? I think that's a pretty risky strategy if, in fact, they do that. But they're welcome to do that and wreck their own campaign if they're at 5% to give us, a few more points. But that's their right to do so. But we're excited. And he has a great record to run on, and we're excited to share that with a 34.7 million American Republican voters that will participate.
The Trump campaign mocks you for going through the 4th or 5th restart of this summer. Well, what's your response?
Well, I guess we'll have as many restarts as they have indictments, I guess, is how that will go. But we're excited. We have a record to run on. We have accomplishments to run on, and we have a vision for America that the voters are responding to. And you could look no further than the last Des Moines Register poll to see how the distance between us and third place. It's clearly a two-person race, and that's how the voters are seeing it, and I think you'll see it tonight. If you're over the target, you take a lot of flack, and I think that's what we're going to see.
Jeff, you know this. I know this. You're one of the few people who can say they ran a statewide campaign in 2016 that defeated then-candidate Donald Trump in Iowa when you were working with Ted Cruz. What do you see in Iowa now? What's your prediction about what DeSantis, if everything breaks right, will achieve in Iowa?
Well, I think Iowa's a very tough state for the former president. It's a very good state for Governor DeSantis, and I just think, I think the field is ripe for us. It's not a field of dreams; it's a field of reality for us. We have 10,000 commitments to caucus for us. We've knocked on over 250,000 doors already, and we're ready for the kickoff. We have increasing momentum. We've had a great opportunity to introduce ourselves. We already have every county organized. I mean, we are laps ahead of where we were with Senator Cruz in the last campaign, a winning campaign. And that is a state that they need to meet you 3 times before they'll commit. And we have 10,000 already. So we're talking about 216,000 people that are going to participate in about 145 days from now. And we're leap years ahead of where we were then. And we have a candidate now with a record of governing and a vision for America that no one else can match. And so we're excited about where we are in that state. We're excited where we are in all the March states, frankly. And New Hampshire, where we're making ground. South Carolina's open terrain, even with candidates from there. So I couldn't be more pleased with where we stand today.
Go ahead and do it, Jeff. Predict that you're going to win Iowa.
I'm not going to pull a Joe Namath for you, but I will tell you this. If I was the former president, I would not like to be at 42% in the first caucus state.
The governor recently made, Jeff, a reference to listless vessels within the Republican Party. How many of them are there, and where should I go look for them?
To what? I'm sorry, I missed that. You made a reference to what?
Listless vessels.
I'll let him speak to that directly. I won't get in his way.
Well, the reference, and of course, you know, the Trump campaign jumped on it, saying you were essentially accusing those in the Trump movement of being mindless sort of robots following him. Is that what the governor meant?
Yeah, I'll let him speak to that. What we see, though, is there's 37% of the Republican electorate that appreciates the president, and they're sticking with him right now. There's 37% that like the president but want a new choice, and there's 25% that aren't going to vote for him at all. And so we're consolidating that second 37%. We're giving an option to the third bucket of 25%, and that's an overwhelming majority of Republicans that just want to move on. And I remember back in 2008 when Hillary Clinton had dropped below 50% against Barack Obama, and it was a momentous moment in that campaign. And now he's nearing under 40, and he was just president 4 years ago, less than 4 years ago. So, this is a new Republican Party. They are looking for the future, not the past, and we present that vision for them, and they're responding.
Jeff Rowe, joining us from Milwaukee, outside the debate headquarters. We thank you.
Thank you, Major.
Next, Trump's senior advisor Jason Miller joins us to discuss the former president's 2024 bid and the Republican field. You are streaming America Decides.
If it's important to our nation,
I wonder how you think about where America is at this moment.
it's on Face the Nation.
Can there be stability if Vladimir Putin remains in power?
Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan on CBS.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education. Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News Streaming.
Welcome to America Decides.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
I always tell people that Twitter would not be Twitter without Black Twitter. It's just us being in fellowship with each other.
And it becomes a conversation you don't want to be left out of.
People really started to recognize the power of activism on Twitter.
Based on that one tweet, the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite was trending around the world.
If anything has really powered Black Twitter, it's been humor.
If your food ain't right, we're going to tell you about that, too.
We tend to create change, create culture and cool.
That's how movements happen on Black Twitter and go beyond more than that.
Black Twitter, the Twitterverse that changed a generation. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
the threat of severe weather and dangerous tornadoes is expected to last.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Let's bring in our partners at the Weather Channel.
Now 6 feet of water, imagine that. Cars that can act like battering rams.
These hyper-realistic simulations show you what the weather will look and feel like before it happens.
Feel the forecast, streaming on CBS News.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
The carnage in our nation's schools has become painfully repetitive.
Not one more child!
School shootings have parents fighting mad.
I promised my daughter I was going to fight. It's going to keep on happening.
And teachers taking lessons in how to fight back.
This is an exercise.
We approach it as it's you or them.
It shouldn't have to be your teacher's job to protect your life.
But will the battle over gun control,
People are afraid that they're going to lose their gun rights altogether.
be the hardest lesson of all?
The exercise, you're having to shoot at an adult. Are you prepared to have to kill one of your students?
Guns in the Classroom, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
She's the most successful alpine skier, male or female, ever, and a worldwide inspiration.
We need a lot of women doing sports really, really well.
The story of Michaela Schifrin's game-changing reign at the top of the slopes when we go person to person.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Welcome back to America Decides. That was one of the many debate one-liners from then-candidate Donald Trump in 2016, possibly more ironic then than he knows it would be now. You know, law, jail, all that sort of stuff. Of course, the former president maintains he's not going to be there tonight in Milwaukee, and he may not participate in any of the Republican debates. Jason Miller joins us now. He's a longtime Trump ally and currently serves as a senior advisor to the former president's 2024 re-election campaign. Jason, good to see you. I know it's loud there. I'll try to make my questions as loud and clear as possible so you can hear them. You know as well as anyone, Jason, that there is a certain fluidity in how President Trump deals with certain issues. So is it clear to you that he will not, under any condition, participate in any future RNC-sponsored debate, or just not this one?
Well, great question. The president did put out on True Social that he won't be participating in the debates, plural, and I would hold that True Social posting to be the case until he changes his mind, until he decides that he might want to jump back in. I don't want to go and get out ahead of the president, but for right now, he said he's not going to do them. And quite frankly, just according to the CBS polling that we saw, where he's up by 46 points in the primary, he's beating Joe Biden in the general election, according to premise data, where Ron DeSantis loses in the general election. I don't think President Trump needs to right now.
So, Jason, is polling metrics the only measure by which the former president will decide to participate in a future debate?
Yeah, another great question. Right now, President Trump wants to take the fight to Joe Biden. Americans all around the country are suffering, whether it be the high inflation, the rampant crime in our big cities, the poor southern border. They want someone to step in and actually take care of these problems right away. President Trump doesn't need 4 years or 8 years to figure out where the bathroom is. He can step in and address these issues right away. And so President Trump wants to talk about the issues, but look, you put him on stage with a bunch of folks who are at 0.5%, maybe 1%. I think Ada Hutchinson may even be in the negatives. I'm not sure how that's possible. But folks like that are just going to take pot shots. All you're going to hear tonight, Major, is basically a cheap copycat of President Trump's policies.
Chris LaCivita described tonight as an audition for the Trump cabinet. Are you serious about that?
There's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek to it. There are actually some folks who are on stage this evening who I think have a lot of substance and I have a very high deal of respect for. I think Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, has shown he's very dynamic on the campaign trail. I think he shows a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I think that's good for the Republican Party. Senator Tim Scott is someone who I've admired for quite a while. I think that's great. There's some other folks who are on the stage and maybe I don't have as much, I guess, admiration for when it comes to their abilities, in particular Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who ever since he's gotten in the race, he's just dropped like a rock. It's not really a good look as far as where his polling numbers are. Every new reboot leads to another disaster. It's not a good look, but there is some good energy, folks on there. And I think President Trump will definitely look at some of the people and consider them to be a part of his team when he returns to the White House.
Jason, from where you're standing, Jeff Rowe was there just a moment ago, and I asked him about your campaign's assessment of DeSantis going through as many as 4 resets this summer, and he said, well, we have as many resets as they have indictments. How do you respond to that?
Well, our poll numbers keep going up, and Ron DeSantis' keep going down. Look, at this point, they might have 20 different reboots. I mean, every other day, I forget, Major, you might know this. Are we in a reboot number 4 for Ron DeSantis or reboot number 5? But every time they do it, here's the fundamental problem. They're still stuck with the same flawed candidate, attacking Republicans with this whole listless vessels thing. I mean, that's channeling Hillary Rodham Clinton. That's not a good look.
Do you think at any point in this campaign, Jason Miller, former President Trump's poll margins over DeSantis or anyone else will decline? Or do you think he's going to remain where he is right now, that this race is essentially frozen and therefore near over?
Polls are always going to have some aspect of fluidity. Fortunately for President Trump, his poll numbers have continued to shoot straight up. And I think voters realize when you talk about the witch hunt, you talk about the weaponized justice system, these politically motivated indictments that have come at him, President Trump's numbers keep going up, whether it's Alvin Bragg or Jack Smith or Fani Willis. There's the same result because I think a lot of people, Major, pretty smart. They can figure out, they see what's going on here. Why did Jack Smith and Biden sit on these things for 2.5 years and then now just go and start to file them just as we're approaching primary season? Voters are smart. They see exactly this is all politicized.
Jason, when I was in Iowa last week, several people who are very experienced in politics there said if Trump wins Iowa, the battle for the nomination is over. So put simply, will the former president win the Iowa caucuses?
I believe President Trump will win in Iowa, and I think he's going to have a very good showing. We've already collected well over 10,000 endorsement cards. We have a great database of people who've supported the president in 2016, 2020, not just from the caucus building activities, the caucus turnout activities, but also from rallies the president has done. Don't forget, President Trump has made well over 30 visits to the state after he became president of the United States, and going back to 2016. He's built a lot of supporters. I do think President Trump is going to win, and quite frankly, I think it's going to be tough for anybody to stop President Trump anywhere. And Major, the one thing I got to point out, we're not just talking about the primary. If you're a Republican, if you care about uniting the Republican Party to beat Joe Biden, look no further than the fact that Joe Biden is now up with a $25 million ad buy because he's panicked. His numbers with African Americans dropped through the floor. His numbers with Hispanic voters dropped through the floor. Joe Biden is in bad shape, even for the 4 hours a day that he's awake. It's not a good look.
All right, Jason Miller, we're not going to live that 4 hours awake line. Just hold on with that. The president's awake more than 4 hours a day. But Jason Miller, putting that aside, thanks for your time in Milwaukee. GOP voters are weighing in on the issues that matter to them, what our new CBS News polling is showing us about the race. You are streaming America Decides.
An original documentary from CBS reports. Controversial Congressman George Santos.
Why won't you answer our questions?
How did he manage to get elected?
Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the USA.
George Santos' campaign was a campaign of deceit, lies, fabrication.
And who is he, really?
I knew him as Anthony DeVolder from Queens.
Really, who he is, he's a fraud.
I compare him to the Tinder swindler.
From people who know him, the truth, the facts, the lies.
He would say that he was worth $100 million.
It's an incredibly cynical episode in American politics, beyond satire.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
No, and I hope I never see it again.
Campaign of Deceit, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
She dazzled on the court and off the court as a businesswoman. Thank you for joining us on Person to Person. Tennis superstar and entrepreneur Serena Williams.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
I asked my students, what are we going to do about racism in the United States?
The backlash over teaching about racism in American schools.
I don't think it has any place in the classroom.
We can either pretend and say, no, we're not racist and we're all great people, or we can actually start to do the really, really hard work of addressing it.
How did you lose your job?
I made the statement that white privilege is a fact.
Is it helping diversity and inclusion?
When you bring in different people's stories and experience, it enriches education.
If you don't talk about something, it doesn't go away.
Or driving us further apart?
What schools are doing to our children in the name of anti-racism is in fact teaching them racism.
The intention is to put us in this war against each other.
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
I was entitled to equal pay for equal work under the law.
Does the Supreme Court's power need to be checked?
9 Supreme Court justices, 5 of them said no, she's not entitled. That's not right.
Calls to fix the court tend to go along with the politics of the moment.
Republican-appointed justices have all tended to go in one direction, with the Democratic-appointed justices tending to go in another.
Even though it's only 9 justices, it takes 5 of them to make the law of the land.
Does it have political impact? True. Political intent? Probably not true.
If the American people don't trust the judgment of their court, that's a real problem for our democracy.
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Welcome back to America Decides. A new CBS News poll is telling us more about the issues Republican voters want the candidates to talk about tonight. 86% of likely Republican primary voters tell us it's very important for them to hear plans about lowering inflation. That's the top issue. Over 80% of respondents also want to hear about ways candidates intend to reduce violent crime and stop illegal immigration. For more on all of this, CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joins us now. Anthony, always great to see you. As our poll also indicates, and was just cited by Jason Miller, former President Trump at the national level, far and away the front runner. Is there any room for this race to change and his great lead to shrink?
You know, like you were noting out there at the Iowa Fair, Major, you really see two types of Trump voters within that large block of Trump supporters. And in fact, it's so large that you can define all these votes in terms of what people think of him. So look at this. If I split this up, 30% of the total primary electorate I would consider Trump and only Trump voters, which means specifically they're voting for him and they are not considering anybody else. This is the base of the base. Now, look, in a crowded field, that might be enough in a crowded primary. So that puts a floor under the former president. Then there's this other group, the 32%. We call them the incumbent advantage Trump voters. And they're voting for Trump, but for reasons that profile more like somebody would support an incumbent, which is to say they like his track record, they like him personally. But here's the catch. They are also considering at least one other candidate. So you turn to the debate tonight and you start to think, okay, this is the group. If anybody's going to peel off, if anybody's going to start to consider somebody else, this is the range in which that movement could take place, because they're already at least looking around, even though, yes, they are behind Trump right now, Major.
So, Anthony, we talked about a couple of policy issues high on the agenda. Any others that you think, based on our survey, voters are eager in the Republican Party to hear about either in this debate or subsequent debates?
Yeah, a couple of things. Let's go through them. First, support for aid to Ukraine. Look, a generation ago, you did see in comparable issues in polling, a very different Republican Party. Take a look at this. Whether or not they want a nominee to support more U.S. aid to Ukraine, it's under 50%, right? It's 42% to 58% opposed. The other one, let me go to the issue of abortion, because this is going to be so important come the fall. And I'm going to show you this because you've got a party where a majority of folks are opposed to abortion, but do you want the nominee to support a national abortion ban? Well, that's at 38%. And you've got this other third that say it doesn't matter. And what's interesting about that, Major, is this could be a mix. It could be people who feel like they got what the party wanted, and now it's maybe off the table. It's gone back to the states. But this could also be people thinking strategically, as we know many are, hey, wait a second, maybe this isn't a strong issue for the party come next fall, and maybe they don't want to talk about it as much.
Well, certainly election results in Kansas last year, a Wisconsin Supreme Court election, and a recent referendum in Ohio would give all those voters pause as to the national ramifications of a prolonged abortion debate. Anthony Salvanto, we thank you very much, as always. The RNC made it clear leading up to the debate tonight that they had hoped that all candidates would participate, including former President Trump.
Well, I'm still holding out hope that President Trump will come. I think it's so important that the American people hear from all the candidates.
Now she is national spokesperson for the RNC. Madison, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us. I hope I got all three of your names correct.
Good to be with you.
Okay. How big is it of a disappointment for the Republican National Committee that former President Trump, former president, standard bearer, front runner, isn't there tonight?
Listen, I've known the president for a very long time. We would have loved to have had him on that stage tonight, and we hope he will consider joining us for future debates. But the show must go on, and we are very excited, and I know our viewers and people here on the ground are very energetic to hear from the 8 candidates that will be on the stage. I mean, when you talk about who's going to be tuning in tonight, it's not just those Republican primary voters, but we're going to have independents and Democrats who simply feel our country's on the wrong track, but they don't know who they're going to be voting for next November. This is their chance to hear that Republican vision that stands in stark contrast to what we've seen and felt under Joe Biden and his failed leadership for 2.5 years.
Madison, as you know, there are at least 3 Republicans who are running for the nomination who will not be on the stage tonight. At least 2 of them have said that the RNC's interactions with them were arbitrary and hard to follow and confusing. Some have even threatened some sort of legal action. What can you tell our audience about how the RNC decided who would be on stage tonight, who wouldn't, and whether these potential legal challenges have any validity?
Let me start out by saying that we have absolutely no motivation at the RNC to keep anybody off that stage. We want as many candidates that can possibly qualify as possible up there. When it came to the criteria for how people could get on the stage tonight, we set that out in very early June. It was not at all confusing. Everybody had a copy of it, and nothing has changed. So for anybody saying that they just became aware of it now, that's simply not true. Our polling criteria, our fundraising criteria, and our candidate Beat Biden pledge has been in place since June. People had until 48 hours before tonight to qualify. But just because they didn't qualify for tonight does not mean they won't qualify for our September debate or future debates.
How would the RNC decide whether or not tonight's debate was a success? Is your principal metric for that, Madison, ratings on TV?
No, I think the success in tonight is going to come from sharing that vision, from being able to have our candidates talk about what a Republican prosperous future looks like for this country, to hear their different diverse views on solutions for the economy, common sense solutions for what's going on in our schools. When we have only 30% of eighth graders right now that are reading proficient in our country, something has to change. People are worried about the safety in their cities and their communities. They're worried about the drugs that continue to pour over our southern border. So I think there'll be a whole host of issues that I'm guessing will be talked about. Again, we have no editorial control over the questions, but I'm sure the candidates will bring up these issues that matter to the American people that we're hearing time and time again on the ground from voters across the country.
Spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee, Madison Gesiotto Gilbert, we thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Up next, the chair of the Democratic National Committee joins us to discuss how Democrats will try to push back on the Republican message on stage tonight. You are streaming America Decides.
It's a history-making meeting. 4 extraordinary women who are all 4-star generals and admirals.
How did you deal with being discriminated against?
I just worked harder. The future of an ever-evolving U.S. military when we go person to person.
Stories start with the who, what, when, and where. CBS News has been following this story. Camilla, why is the government relying on these devices to track migrants? But it's why it's important to you that matters most. Doctor, why are federal health advisors focusing on this specific pill for contraception? And knowing what to ask is how you open the door to a deeper understanding. I'm John Dickerson. See you on Prime Time. Streaming free everywhere.
Stories that inform.
You can be really old at 60, and you can be really young at 85.
Inspire.
How do we unlock the power within ourselves to be who we want to be?
And brighten your day.
The best part of fame is making people feel good. Always send the people home happy.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
He started out as a fun-loving party boy, but the alcohol got the better of him. What I envisioned was him being in some sort of medical facility. I just thought, what a great candidate for them to learn about the results of alcoholism and what it does to a body. But his body was sold to the military, specifically used as a crash test dummy in a simulated Humvee explosion. I was devastated. I had the box. I don't know if they were his ashes or not. I just held it as tight as I could, and I just told him how sorry I was.
Body Brokers, now streaming on the free CBS News app. Hey there, welcome to The Uplift.
I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm going to remember that the rest of my life.
It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift, stream now on the free CBS News app.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education, both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News Streaming.
Welcome to America Decides, Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. After nearly 4 decades of March Madness, this sports broadcasting legend is stepping away from his role in covering the NCAA basketball tournament. Jim Nantz on his fondest memories and what's next when we go person to person.
Welcome back to America Decides. The Democratic National Committee is, as you might expect, criticizing GOP candidates ahead of the debate in Milwaukee. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison said the event will host, quote, the most chaotic slate of presidential candidates in history. Jamie Harrison joins us now. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. What do you mean by the most chaotic slate Major. In history? What do you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, Major, that these folks are extreme on every measure, on every issue. You know, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been fighting for more rights and freedoms for the American people, and not less. But you look at today's Republican Party. You got folks in this party who have been celebrating Putin. You got folks in this party who want to take away women's rights to control their own bodies because Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley believe that they know better than women know better about what should happen to their own bodies. You're looking at folks who believe in banning books instead of banning the assault weapons that are mowing down our kids. And so when you think about today's Republican Party, they are all MAGA extremists. Doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or any of the other ones that are going to be on the stage tonight. And what we want to do is to make sure that we paint the contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris believe our better days are ahead of us and not behind us. This crowd believes that our better days are behind us. And that is the difference in this election.
Jamie Harrison, chair of the DNC. What does it mean to you that Trump isn't there?
It really doesn't mean much to me. I mean, that's Ronna McDaniel's problem. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump or any of them who end up with a nomination. We are going to focus on making our case to the American people.
I want to talk to you about something that Tim Scott, Republican from South Carolina, says with frequency on the campaign trail. And you know Senator Scott pretty well. He says, as if he's the Republican nominee, he will be Joe Biden and the Democratic Party's biggest nightmare. Is he right?
Well, Tim Scott is currently the biggest nightmare for folks in South Carolina who actually want something to get done. I mean, this guy hadn't delivered anything for South Carolina. He's delivered big tax cuts for the richest and the wealthiest corporations in America. But for the people that I know in my hometown of Orangeburg or in Cameron or in Bamberg or Bowman, some of these really rural towns who just need a senator who will actually deliver for them, they haven't had that in a long time, not since Fritz Hollins. And I can tell you, Tim Scott ain't no Fritz Hollins.
Tell me about these dark Brandon billboards in Milwaukee. Where can people see them and what are they about?
Oh, Dark Brandon is all over the place. It's all over websites, on billboards. Dark Brandon is out there because apparently it drives the Republicans crazy.
A, why do you think that is, and what's the point of driving Republicans crazy?
Who knows? You know, in the end of the day, we are also putting out the messaging that we are for protecting Social Security and Medicare. We are for making sure health care is affordable and accessible to all of America's people. We are for making sure that, you know, working people in this country who have been burdened by student loans can get some of their student loan debt relief off of them. We are for the American people. Again, this election is going to boil down to hope versus fear. We believe in the American people. Republicans right now, they just want more power, and that's not what the American people want.
Chairman Harrison, what does it say to you that during this summer of indictments, politically, it appears former President Trump is stronger than he was before the indictments began?
I don't know, but I don't believe that he's stronger with independents. I don't believe he's stronger with Democrats. And at the end of the day, the coalition that elected the 80 million people who elected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, a record no other president in the history of this great nation have ever gotten 80 million votes. we believe that coalition will come back together again and double down on hope once more and send Joe Biden and Kamala Harris back to the White House to finish the job.
Very quickly, Chairman Harrison, there are persistent reports, and it shows up in the polling data, softness among African-American voters for the president's reelection and younger voters 18 to 30. Do you agree, and what are you doing to address it?
Well, listen, it is August of 2023. Most people don't even know who's on this stage tonight, so I don't take much credence in terms of polls. Because in the end of the day, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going all across this country. Democrats are going across the country to talk about how this administration, which is probably one of the most successful since Lyndon Baines Johnson, has done so much to improve and put America back on track. We are going to make sure that that message gets out to the American people. And then the only poll that matters is November of 2024. And I believe we'll win that poll like we did in 2020.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison joining us from Milwaukee outside the Republican debate site. We thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
More defendants in the Georgia 2020 election interference case are turning themselves into authorities. The 19 defendants, including former President Trump, have until noon Friday to surrender themselves to the Fulton County Jail. The former president has said that he will turn himself in Thursday. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian joins us now. Nicole, it's been a busy day there. Catch us up on what has happened, what you have seen.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we have seen more defendants turn themselves in today, 7 in all, in addition to the 2 from yesterday, which brings us to a total of 9. Of course, the most prominent being the former president's leading ally, Rudy Giuliani, who just was at the jail a short time ago. Take a listen to what he told some of us in the press corps after he was booked.
This is an assault on our Constitution. Fannie Willis will go down in American history as having conducted one of the worst attacks on the American Constitution ever when this case is dismissed. She has violated people's First Amendment right to advocate the government, to petition the government for grievances, like an election they believe was poorly conducted or falsely conducted. People have a right to believe that in America. Biden and the Biden state doesn't have a right to tell you what the truth is.
So as you can see, there was a pretty chaotic scene as the former mayor exited his vehicle and tried to talk to some of us in the press after he made that statement. We did see him go to a bail bondsman. Of course, his bond was set at $150,000. I asked the former mayor who put up his bail. I also asked his attorneys who was paying for it. They did not comment, but some sources have indicated that the former mayor has been experiencing some legal troubles. He has been fundraising online also to kind of help with some of his funds. But that being said, of course, that really was the big event here at the jail today, with Giuliani turning himself in, the former president just a short time ago saying that it is a sad day for our country. Major.
Nicole, there is nothing ordinary about this, but to the degree that that lack of ordinariness can be recognized, has this processing been as expected, meaning without conflict or without controversy, at least so far?
You know, for the most part, I mean, it has been quite routine, having spent a big chunk of this week at the Fulton County Courthouse and here at the jail. You know, starting Monday, we saw a number of attorneys, including the former president's attorneys, go in, meet face-to-face with members of the district attorney's team to try to hammer out these bond agreements. And once those have been in place, we have seen many of these defendants, as we pointed out, surrender in short order. There are a couple of holdouts, including Mark Meadows, former White House Chief of Staff, and Jeffrey Clark, a former Justice Department official, who have both filed motions asking for an extension to surrender. In both instances, however, the district attorney has turned them down.
Nicole, any sense of what tomorrow will look like and play out as there are greater security being prepared for the former president's expected arrival?
Well, that is what we are expecting. Obviously, with any appearance by the former president, a lot of this is being coordinated in tandem with the Secret Service and local authorities here on the ground, from the Fulton County Sheriff's Office to the Atlanta Police. We do expect the former president to turn himself in at some point, either Thursday afternoon or Thursday evening, and he will likely go through the same process as everyone else, which could involve fingerprinting, which could involve the first mugshot we may see of the former president. As we have seen, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office put out mugshots of all of these defendants thus far who have turned themselves in. So it really will be a pretty stunning moment, not just for the former president, but in the whole trajectory of all of these legal cases that we have seen the former president endure.
If that happens, it would be the first authentic mugshot of the former president, not one used simply for campaign purposes that wasn't actually real. That happened in an earlier indictment. Nicole Killian, thank you so very much. Next, we assess the GOP field and what candidates need to do to narrow the gap, the very big gap, with former President Trump. You're streaming America Decides.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions. We look at a story and we say, how do we make it relevant to people's lives?
So this is what we eat to live longer.
Finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for you and your family.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Morning news matters because it sets the tone for your day, and it's a way of getting you started.
We take you places, teach you new things, and we make you feel like, it's not all bad. We're going to uplift you.
People say to me, you always seem to be having a good time. I mean, you know what? You're right.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
You had a substitute teacher that was pretty popular. What was his reputation?
Everyone loved him.
You had to miss a test. What did he offer to have you make up the test?
He said that I can come by after school was all over and just take the exam. The blinds were down. He closed the door. The next thing I knew, he was right next to me. That's when I realized what was going to happen. Even if I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, no one would hear me because no one was there. He told me that if I ever said anything to anyone, he would kill me, and he would kill my family. So I did it.
Pledge of Silence, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
She was near the finish line of the Boston Marathon when a terrorist bomb changed everything. Join us for an extraordinary story of survival, persistence, and triumph when we go person to person.
When weather is about to get extreme.
We're talking about hail, we're talking about tornadoes, damaging winds.
Every second counts.
Let's now take a look at what that really means to you.
That's why CBS News and the Weather Channel have come together to bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
We can show you what it's going to look like when the storms come through.
You'll see what will happen, where it will happen, before it does. Feel the forecast on CBS News. Time to get prepared.
We're really excited that we've been honored with the Emmy Award for Outstanding Live News Program. But we know we couldn't have done that without you. So thank you. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7 on CBS.
We go to stories because we can bring someone to that story. That human connection is incredibly important. The news doesn't have to be depressing.
What do you love about running?
Energy! It can be uplifting.
Welcome back to America Decides. Democrats have used access to abortion and reproductive health care to energize voters. We've seen that in a few elections recently. Now, that doesn't appear to be a key issue among Republicans. A new CBS News poll found that just 34% of Republican voters thought discussing stopping abortion was very important, at least to them. Ashley Etienne and Kevin Sheridan join us now. Let's do the introductions. Ashley is a CBS News contributor and former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Kevin is a founding partner at Protein Public Affairs. He previously served as a spokesperson for the RNC and as a senior advisor for the Romney-Ryan 2012 presidential campaign. Okay, now that all the titles have been taken care of, Kevin and Ashley, it's great to see you. Kevin, let me start here. There is a temptation in our world, meaning the political junkie world, to overanalyze any debate, especially the very first one. Are there notes of caution everyone should use or employ to hyperanalyze the first debate of the Republican cycle this time around?
Well, normally the first debate wouldn't be as important as this one is, because we're looking for one alternative to Donald Trump. Half the party is still open to that. All the polling says so. So if the party can coalesce around one person, be it Ron DeSantis or whoever else, then we can have a real race. And the 1%ers are going to have to understand at some point they've got to get out this time. They can't do a 2016, stay in the race too long, muck it up for the front runners, and give a real opportunity to take on Donald Trump one-on-one.
Does that mean, listening to you as I was very carefully, Kevin, that the failure of DeSantis to catapult himself closer to Trump during this summer is the Republican Party political story of the year? Because if he had, the 1%ers would probably have a wider lane to have an honest conversation with themselves and say, okay, am I going to keep this vanity project or not? But DeSantis has fallen, not grown, and they're like, well, hey, why not? Why should I stick around, right?
Yeah, he fell 10 points. He did not have a great launch, obviously. He should have gotten a bump out of his launch. He did not. He had $20 million dropped on his head, calling him sanctimonious and unlikable and everything else. And he's got to prove that to his donors, to the rest of the party that is looking for an alternative, that he's the man. And he's still in the best position to do that, but he's got to prove it, and he's got to do it fast before everybody starts looking for someone else.
Ashley, from the Democratic perspective, what has this summer in the Republican Party primary contest meant? What has it told you?
Well, I mean, what it tells me is there's a crisis of leadership in the Republican Party. The fact that there's a 1,000-pound gorilla in the room and everyone's acting like it doesn't exist, that the former president is indicted for the most egregious offenses against American democracy. It's on videotape. He's not denied any of it. And it's like it doesn't even exist, and it's not even registering in the poll among GOP primary voters. That is alarming, in my opinion. And the reason why is because really almost to some degree, I hate to be hyperbolic here, but the state and the health of American democracy is in the hands of Republican primary voters right now. So the fact that democracy is not even registering in the polls is a concern for me, because if you don't have a healthy democracy, nothing else matters.
And yet, I keep hearing from Democrats that as long as Trump is the likely nominee, that makes Biden and Kamala Harris stronger, because they believe Trump is the most beatable potential Republican nominee. So at another level, aren't you happy about what's happened this summer?
Oh, absolutely not. I will tell you this. I am an American citizen before I'm a Democrat, before I'm affiliated with any party. I firmly believe in the principles of American democracy and our Constitution. So no, I would not be thrilled by that. But I can say the greatest nightmare for the Democratic Party is if Trump doesn't win. And I think to Kevin's point, 50% of the GOP primary voters are persuadable. That's a nightmare for the Democratic Party to some degree. So the question is, to Kevin's point, we were just talking about this backstage, if they could quickly coalesce, if the party could quickly coalesce around an alternative, again, nightmare for the Democratic Party.
Kevin, that is the greatest if, because the mathematics play to Trump's advantage if lots of 1%ers stay in, because they're dividing the anti-Trump vote just as they did in 2015 and 2016. The RNC is more Trumpian than it was in 2016. State parties are more Trumpian than they were in 2016. These are built-in advantages. And if the party doesn't coalesce in an anti-Trump way, I don't see any way to stop him. Do you?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. We've got to do what the Democrats did last time in 2020 and get these candidates out of the race. It was astonishing, we were talking about this earlier, that at the
after
same
South Carolina,
time,
boom,
they're all out. And that was a shock to me. I didn't know that a party could actually act like that. Republicans like to be right rather than, I think, win sometimes. So I'm hopeful that maybe we learned a lesson, but, who knows?
And yet, when I talk to Republicans about this, they say, the reality is the base, that 30% that Anthony Salvanto was talking about earlier, the I'm with Trump no matter what, isn't interested in this other strategy that you have and will take action at the state party level to try to stop that. I mean, that's a real schism in the party. It hasn't been resolved.
And we have no idea what it would look like if Trump doesn't win the nomination. What does his base do? What does Donald Trump do? But we've got to take it one step at a time and see what happens with, those of us who aren't necessarily supporting Trump. But, the polls right now should be scary for Democrats because Trump and Biden are polling very, very tightly within the margin of error. And there's a real chance that Donald Trump could beat Joe Biden. He's that weak right now.
Joe Biden is that weak.
Yes.
What?
Address that, Ashley.
What? I don't know why the president would ever be weak compared to the former president, who again is about to surrender to authorities tomorrow. I might be trapped in the matrix. I have no idea, what's going on here. But the reality is like there's no way Joe Biden is weak compared to Donald Trump. There's still a lot of unknowns about Donald Trump. It's still in terms of how voters will process the accumulation of all these indictments and trials, et cetera, over time. So there's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of time left. I don't anticipate that he will end up in the
Ashley, let's talk some basic blocking and tackling.
Sure.
How satisfied are you or not with where things are with the Biden-Harris reelection campaign in terms of ground game, state party directors, the fundamentals, the door knocks, the digital outreach, et cetera? It seems to me that it's not quite there yet. And in my experience with reelection campaigns, it's built up a little bit more by now.
Well, here's the reality is Democrats are incredibly strong at the ground game. That's our superpower, is the ground game. So I anticipate that'll be fine. But here's a couple signs that will signify that the campaign is strong. They've just gone up with a $25 million buy in key battleground states. That's a big deal. That's earliest.
Earlier on
it's
this
ever
program,
been.
Jason Miller, speaking on behalf of former president, says that's a sign of weakness, that Democrats are afraid.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, it's a sign that we're doing things differently. We usually don't go up on TV with a proactive message this early. So to me, it's a sign that we're trying to combat negative coverage, as well as sort of, meet voters where they are with our message. So I think that that's a positive sign. The other positive sign, though, is watching the vice president get her footing. She's now taking, being more aggressive and taking more risks. That's going to yield great return for the president.
Ashley Etienne, Kevin Sheridan, thank you very much for your time. Always good to see you.
All right.
That does it for today. We thank you for watching. Here's something you probably already knew. You're streaming CBS News.
If it's important to our nation,
I wonder how you think about where America